guys, and welcome back to Tracheostomy Awareness Week. So today I'm going to be talking about the don'ts of a trach, so what you can't do with a trach, because some things, it actually, makes total sense why you can't do it, but you just don't ever think about it. You have to be really careful around sand, because this tube is going directly to your airway, so if you get sand in there, then it's going straight into your lungs. And if you get sand all around it, then it still could seep in, and it get really itchy, and it's not like you can just take this out and scrub really good. So you have to be really careful around sand. It has to avoid this whole situation. So not only sand, but you also have to avoid water. So again, this is going directly into your airways. So any water that's splashing to them, or if they want to dunk their head underwater, they just can't do that because there's a direct hole to your airway. When you choke, the reason that you're coughing is because it's stopping it from going into your airway. You never actually get water into your airway. If they got water in their trach, they would drown. So for bathing, what you're supposed to do is just put a little bit of water into a tub, and then you're supposed to just pretty much just sponge bath them in the bath, and then they want you to lean them back and dump the water like this, which still scares me because she's not very sturdy, and I'm always scared the water is going to drip down here. So I usually just, what I do is have a cloth, and then I keep going over it and over her head until all the soap is gone or it's wet enough. Eventually, when she gets older, I will be able to do the cup method, but she's just crazy, and I don't want to drown my child. So I just wring it through her hair a million times. And we also have one of those mats to make it so that it's not as easy to slip in the tub. And she doesn't bath all the time, but it's not for a safety reason. It's because every time you get out of the bath, you have to do trach ties. So that's that little piece right here, and I can't do them by myself all the time, especially right now because she's she's 3, but she's in terrible twos, and she will not sit still for me. So I don't do them by myself right now. So I need to always have a nurse, so I can only do it when a nurse is here or when I'm not working, because obviously, on the days I work, I'm they get here and I have to rush out the door, and I get home and it's 15 minutes until they're off, but Hannah's usually napping. So she doesn't get bathed as often. I try to bath her. She gets sponge baths, but obviously she can't go in the bath with Haley because Haley's splashing. Other things you need to avoid with trachs are things like dust, cigarette smoke, perfume, aerosols, any kind of bleach or cleaner or anything, because all of that, you don't see it, but it's in the air and it's going directly into her airway, and all those things are so bad to breathe in. You and me, we have a nose which has a filter, and it's filtering out most of the bad stuff. It's still not like we want to be sniffing bleach or smoking, people smoke, whatever, but if you were directly putting that into your lungs, it's really, really bad. So it's just as bad. Hannah being around secondhand smoke is pretty much like Hannah smoking. When you're smoking, your mouth and everything like that is filtering out stuff, and your throat and everything, but all of that is getting missed by the trach. So anytime she's around smoke, it's really bad. Campfires, anything like that. That's why I get really touchy when people are smoking around Hannah or things like that. I also don't wear perfume very much anymore. The only time I wear perfume is if I go to work. I spray it at work, and then I don't come home for 5 hours, and then it's mostly rubbed off already. When I use hairspray, because it's my lifeline. I have to have hairspray to make my hair work. I make sure the Hannah's in the living room when I spray the hairspray, and I open the door. So my neighbors probably think I'm crazy because I'm constantly opening the door for no reason. But I spray the hairspray. Sometimes I'll even step outside if Hannah will not stay in the living room. And I open up the door, so then that way it'll waft out the door and Hannah's not going to breathe it in. So another risk factor is aspiration. So aspiration is anytime you eat and you get it into your lungs. With the trach, it does cause higher risk of aspiration, so that's why we want her to eat and we encourage it, but we also are hesitant, and we need her to have a swallow study done just to make sure that she's not going to get it into her airway. For clothing, you want to make sure that you avoid any clothing that would cover the tracheostomy or shed. So you wouldn't want to wear a scarf, you wouldn't want to wear a turtleneck, and you wouldn't want to wear, I don't even know what kind of fabric sheds. Those fluffy socks that everybody, I don't know. I don't like fluffy socks. I don't like thick socks. But that's the kind of material, if you can think about what I'm talking about. Some of them I feel just would fall off. Any material or feathery kind of stuff, or I don't know, anything that would fall off and could possibly go into the trach, you don't want to wear. Pets that have long hair or birds with feathers and stuff can cause problems, like the dander and everything in pets or birds and all their feces and all that stuff. That's really bad to breathe in. But you definitely don't want to have a pet that has like long hair and it's constantly shedding, like a cat or a dog, and then you're finding like hair in the trach or just things like that. And carpets. Carpets are really bad. They're looking at getting us laminate flooring in here because carpets hold a lot of dust and stuff and like pet stuff and, you know, all of that stuff, and anything like that is just really bad on your lungs. So a trach requires that they have someone with them at all times. So I cannot leave Hannah with somebody that isn't trained to take care of a trach. The only people that are trained to take care of Hannah are the nurses and my mom. So if I just had a friend come over, I couldn't just run to the store quickly for 5 minutes, because in that 5 minutes, she could need a section. Her trach could fall out. She could stop breathing. She could have so many problems in that 5 minutes and die because my friend doesn't know how to take care of her. So that's why Hannah needs nursing, because you have to be trained to take care of her. You can't leave her alone to shower because in that 5 minutes, something bad could happen. That's why she'll need somebody to go to school with her if she doesn't get the trach out. Daycares, that's why if she went to a daycare, she would have to have a nurse with her as well. Lately, I found that it actually really sucks that she has to have somebody like that with her all the time because she's so not independent. Like, just today, I tried to make her carry a jacket from the car inside Grandma's house, and she wouldn't do it. Like, she couldn't comprehend the concept of having to do that because there's always somebody around that's going to do something for her. Like, she does do some stuff, but like she doesn't do everything that a normal child would because there is always somebody there giving her their full attention. Driving, I've mentioned this before, so the reasons that you don't want to drive, you shouldn't really drive, or you need to be very cautious while you drive with a trach, is because their trach could get plugged, they could need a suction, the trach could fall out, they could stop breathing. All those things that I just mentioned for why you need a nurse is the same reason for driving. So you should have a mirror so you can see your child's face at least and be able to easily pull over and be ready for any situations. Like, I know that in a situation I would put on my hazards no matter where I was if anything happened like that. That's also why you need nursing to sleep. It's definitely not recommended to sleep, or at least it's not recommended to sleep in BC when you have a child with a trach. But lots of families do, and I think in the States it might be different. They might say as long as you have a baby monitor. I was reading on a couple sites that they said a baby monitor or to have them sleep in your room. It's obviously not recommended, like, it's not the greatest because you are relying to wake up to an alarm, wake up to the sound of them needing a suction, wake up to the sound of them puking, which, like, how many times in your life have you slept through an alarm before? So that's why it's scary, and also you're relying on equipment to make sure that your child's health's okay. So, like, what about if the baby monitor for some reason dies? Or what about if the SAT machine has stopped working and randomly just turned off in the middle of the night and you were hearing the alarms? Or the same with a ventilator. There's so many things. Or, like, what about if the power went out? That's the best example. What about if the power went out and your baby monitor turned off? And you wouldn't know that because you're sleeping and the power went off. So that's why it's always risky. My baby monitors are on batteries and all of that, but those are reasons why they do provide us with nurses, because there always is a risk factor. Anyways, I think that's about it for the don'ts of tracheostomies. I hope you learned a little bit more about tracheostomies from this video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and yeah, I'll see you in our next video. Bye. What about if the SAT machine,